You may not know who Eden Knight was. I didn't prior to hearing about this story, but what happened to them is genuinely sickening. She posted a twitlonger recapping her entire story, which I'll link in the description if you want to read it, but I'll provide some rundown in this video. She was a 23-year-old trans woman who came over to the United States from Saudi Arabia for college, and while she was here in the United States, she came out as trans. At one point, her visa expires, and she does not want to go back to Saudi Arabia in fear that her hyper-conservative parents won't approve of her being trans. She then moves in with a woman named Bailey in Ohio who seeks to shelter homeless trans people, and while living with Bailey, everything was pretty okay. Her mental health was greatly improving during this time because she was medically transitioning and she was allowed to live life the way she chose to. Eventually, she was contacted by a man named Michael Pocolyko, someone who promised to repair the relationship between her and her parents. He is the CEO of the Special Investigations Limited Company, a company that is based in Washington, D.C., and is, as its website states, a federal government prime contractor serving commercial and government clients. The company specializes in cybersecurity, so this is a pretty powerful figure with a lot of political ties. She agrees to move to Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C., she meets a Saudi lawyer who she refers to as Bader. Bader got her an apartment in the D.C. area, and when she would speak to him in person, he would constantly talk down her appearance, tell her she looks like a man, and told her that she should wear masculine clothing and discard her feminine clothing. At one point, he even said to her, she can live a double life. She can be a trans woman, but just hide it in public. And he even gave examples of people he supposedly knew that were trans but hid it publicly. At this point, she was entirely dependent on Bader for food and shelter, and her illegal immigration status was held over her head. If she tried to run away, she could be deported back to Saudi Arabia. So, mostly out of fear, she conformed. In her own words, I did everything he asked. I cut my hair, I stopped taking estrogen, I changed my wardrobe. Eventually, she was sent back to Saudi Arabia to be with her parents. Her mother told her that she was going to hell and she needed to repent. Her father told her that she was an abomination. Her parents found her HRT several times. When her parents found her private photos, they berated her for being a quote-unquote freak, and at this point, Eden was done fighting. She ultimately took her life. The twitlonger I linked in the description was her goodbye. Michael Pocolyko, Bader, and another woman named Ellen, who is supposedly the managing director at Michael Pocolyko's company, were all hired to wrangle Eden and get her back to Saudi Arabia to her parents so they can force her to detransition. The reason Eden's parents had these types of connections is because her father is Fahad al-Shathri. From his LinkedIn, since June 2018, Fahad al-Shathri serves as deputy governor for supervision at the Saudi Central Bank. So all of these powerful people came together to force a trans girl to live a life that she does not want to live and is not true to her. I am so fucking disgusted every time I hear about parents like this. You don't really love your kid. You just want your kid to conform to the values that you hold, even if said values contradict the way they choose to live their own life. Essentially, you don't really love your child. You just want your child to fit the mold that you set for them the moment they came out of the womb. Because who the fuck was she hurting when she was out there, happy, living the life that she saw best fit? And now, as a direct result of you wanting to have such a stranglehold over your child's life, who is already over the age of 18, your kid is dead. All of the studies out there proving that transitioning actually improves the mental health of trans people is completely irrelevant to evil people like this. Because they live inside of a bubble where one has to strictly conform to a set of norms based on the genitalia they were born with. It doesn't matter that being forced to conform to these set of norms may make a person unhappy. My morality supersedes your mental health. This is the direct end result of all of this rampant anti-trans bigotry we've been seeing in this last year alone. Continuously being denied the life that you want to live, a life that harms absolutely no one, continuously being told that your identity is not valid, even by those who should be the closest to you and love you unconditionally and accept you for who you are, your parents, that shit, more often than not, is seriously damaging to the mental health of a person. And this is why we see a high suicide rate among the trans community. It has nothing to do with being mentally ill. We live in a stupid, backward society that cannot accept when a person chooses to skew away from a set of socially constructed norms that we provide people from birth. It doesn't take more than just an ounce of empathy to understand why there are trans people out there who end up taking their own lives. Imagine being part of a minority group of people who much of society fucking despises just for fucking existing. You're constantly being told that your identity is not valid. An entire political party's whole platform at this point is ensuring that your life is as miserable as possible. Huge political pundits are trying to spin that you're a groomer just based off of how you choose to present and identify yourself. When you're up against this much hatred over simply choosing to live life the way you see best fit, you may start to feel depressed too, and maybe overcome by certain ideations. But basic fucking empathy seems to be lost on those who are so consumed by their bigotry, because I've seen so many replies under Eden's twitlonger celebrating her death, posting laughing gifs, saying "rip bozo," and other shit like that. I hope you don't lie to yourselves every day and think that you're good people, because good people don't openly celebrate the death of someone who killed themselves because they were denied the life that they wanted to live. Again, a life that harms fucking nobody. But thankfully, the positivity greatly outweighs the negativity. There's been an outpour of support for Eden, and an outpour of condemnation for everyone involved in the events that led up to Eden taking her own life. Let people fucking live. Your values absolutely do not supersede the life of another person. And this only further proves that this whole anti-trans crusade was never ever about protecting the youth, but instead forcing people to conform into a life that they don't want to live. Because here is Eden Knight, a young trans woman who took her own life because of the bigotry she was subjected to on a daily basis from the people around her. And what is the response from the Protect the Youth crowd? Either absolutely nothing or outright celebration. Fuck all of you people. Rest in peace, Eden Knight, and I hope that someday every trans person out there can live the life that they want to live without fear of judgment or worse happening to them. Trans rights. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.